The Daily Code Snippet. We learned there are several fonts called web-safe fonts that commonly exist on systems. Since you are not distributing a typeface, there is no licensing issue using a method where the user has the typeface installed. However, this method limits the choice of fonts you can use. What do you do if you want to load a particular font? In this case, there are different methods that have been used over the years to deliver the fonts with your files so that a website will display true to your design. We will only briefly touch on 3 older methods for web typography because they are no longer recommended. 1. Image replacement. 2. sIFR. And 3. CUFON. With image replacement, you create a graphic that contains the text as you want it to appear. The advantage is that you have a wide range of choices of fonts because you can use any typeface as long as you have a license to use it on your computer to produce the graphic. The main disadvantage is that you are not using live text. This means any text content in an image is not available to those using screen readers unless alternative text is included, and it is not available to search engines as well. An image-based method may be difficult to scale properly in a responsive design. sIFR, or Scalable Inman Flash Replacement, replaced the text elements with Adobe Flash equivalents using JavaScript. While it improved on image replacement because the text was selectable and it was accessible, it required a lot of bandwidth and only worked if the user had Adobe Flash and JavaScript enabled. Of course, these days Adobe Flash is no longer in use. CUFON also used JavaScript but created an SVG or VML version of the text. While sIFR was supported by type foundries at the time, CUFON was less supported, so this means that without licensing, you could not legally use it for many fonts. Now we use a couple of ways to deliver fonts to our users for our websites. One is @fontface, and the other is using service-based fontface, with the latter becoming more popular. With @fontface, the CSS specifies where a font can be downloaded if it is not installed. The license to use the font must permit distribution via @fontface, and the act of downloading can slow the loading of your web page. With service-based fontface, you are either choosing a free or paid service to deliver the fonts. The choices are wider than traditional @fontface, and the service takes care of the licensing. As long as you are paying the fees to the type foundries, you are covered. We will discuss these methods next week. @fontface was a method developed to load a custom font that moves beyond web-safe fonts because the fonts will be provided to the user, typically delivered from a remote server. While there are several properties that can be defined under @fontface, the minimum required properties are that you need to provide the name of the font family and the URLs where the font files are located. Previously, we discussed how different browsers recognize different font file formats, so in order for @fontface to work cross-browser, you need to supply multiple types of font file formats to the user. We will go over the different file formats in the next video. Today we will discuss the syntax of @fontface. Here is an example of @fontface. @fontface. Font family. Sentinel book in quotation marks. Semicolon. Source. URL. /assets/fonts/sentinel-book-webfont.ttf in quotation marks, format ttf in quotation marks, comma, URL /assets/fonts/sentinel-book-webfont.otf, format OTF, both in quotation marks, comma. And the list goes on to list EOT, WOFF, WOFF2, and SVG URLs. In our example, we are loading the font Sentinel, which is a custom font from the former Hoffler Frey Jones type foundry. We are loading the book weight, and you can see we are providing several font formats: TTF, TrueType, OTF, OpenType, EOT, Embedded OpenType, WOFF, Web Open File Format, WOFF2, and SVG, Scalable Vector Graphic. Each of the formats has its own URL, and we are telling the browser what kind of file it is by specifying the format. If our font name has more than one word, we need to enclose it in quotes. To use this custom font in an element on our page, we use the name we have specified in the font family property under @fontface. For example, if we want to use Sentinel as our paragraph text, we would now write P, font family, Sentinel book in quotation marks, Georgia, Times New Roman in quotation marks, serif. Font size 16 pixels, line height 1.3 em. You should still specify a font stack because if there is an issue loading from your provided URLs, the browser has some direction on what font to display in its place. We will talk more about font size and line height in later episodes. Presented by Designers Learn Code.